Hi, Alicia here. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to recommend some horror and thriller books. Hey pals, how's it going? I hope you are doing well. And if you're new here, this is the place where we talk about books. Today I thought it would be really fun to give a recommendations list of horror and thriller books, but specifically written by authors who are either Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Horror and thriller are two of my favorite genres to read. I just love the spooky stuff, but I am not blind to the fact that those two genres in particular are usually, at least in what's like popular, a sea of white faces. White authors kind of dominate that industry, not because BIPOC authors aren't writing these books, it's just because that's not what people are publishing, that's not what people are talking about, and that is a huge problem. So I went through my shelf over the last couple of years of books that I have read, and I have a stack of books to share with you today that I really enjoyed. I've also got a smaller stack of books that are on my TBR, so I haven't read them yet, so I can talk about those as well. Before I go into my recommendations, I would just like to redirect you from my video. Just stop watching my video now and instead go into the link in my bio and go to the video from to Brody's YouTube account. Brody is an Indigenous booktuber, and they posted a video earlier this week talking about how it's just a really good reminder around how it's not only important for us to be prioritizing own voices narratives, which we absolutely should be doing, we absolutely must be doing, but it's not only important to be focusing on own voices narratives, but also focusing on own voices reviews of those narratives. Their video is so enlightening around how, I guess, there are white booktubers who are reviewing books that are from BIPOC authors, centering the BIPOC community, and then giving them low reviews because they don't relate to the characters or the content or the representation in those books, which is just fundamentally an incorrect way to read a book. Like, absolutely, it is our honor, it is our duty, it is our responsibility to read books outside of our perspective, and absolutely we can review those critically, we can review those thoughtfully and sensitively, but it is not our role to be providing input based on how accurate we think the representation is or how successfully we see ourselves in those narratives. We're not reading books from other voices other than our own to center ourselves in a narrative. So anyways, please go watch their video where they talk about this. It really was a really great reminder for when I am reading books written by Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And yeah, it seemed really timely to, after having watched that, to then kind of go through the books that I have read pretty much within the last 2 years is the stack I have here, as well as other books that I am really excited to read going forward. And this is absolutely not a comprehensive list. There are tons of books out there, and yeah, maybe I'll come back to this in the future when I've read a few more and give a round 2 of recommendations. So without further ado, let's get into those recommendations. First up, I have The Good Son by Jung Jung. This was published in South Korea in 2016 and then translated into English in 2018. This is a thriller that will just hook you from the second you start and will not let you go until you have finished it. The Good Son is about a man, 25-year-old Yoo-jin, and he wakes up one morning, and when he goes downstairs, he finds his mother dead on the floor. And he has no idea how she got there. He has no idea how this has happened to her. He has no memory of pretty much the last 3 days. He kind of wakes up and he's just like, what has happened? So this is one of those fragmented thrillers where you are with the protagonist, you are in their head, and you're just trying to kind of piece together what happened along with him. And this has so much suspense. This is so thrilling. There's so much mystery in this, and I absolutely love this and am just now so committed to reading more from Jung Yoo Jung in the future. Next up, I'd like to recommend Lakewood by Megan Giddings. This was published this year in 2020. I read this book last month and this was incredible. This is definitely a contemporary horror, speculative fiction. This is following a Black woman who is in her early 20s and she kind of gets sucked into this medical study. She is in need for money to take care of her mother. She is the sole caretaker of her mother. So she signs up for this medical research study where she goes to this facility called Lakewood and they perform medical tests on her and pay her basically a lot of money and a lot of medical and health benefits so that she can take care of her mother. This is very much a novel about systemic and institutional racism and how it kind of captures people within the system when they have no other choice. It is horrifying. It is beautifully written. This was a debut and I am so stoked to read more from Megan Giddings in the future. Next, I've got Ryo Murakami. I've read 3 books by him. I've read In the Miso Soup, I've read Piercing, and then I also read Audition. Ryo Murakami writes thriller horrors. All of his books are usually kind of a blend of both. I would probably call them more thrillery, but he also has a very brutal edge to his stories. You're usually kind of following characters, getting to know them. He's setting up the scene, showing you around, and then all of a sudden, just a shockingly violent twist in one direction. So you're usually kind of watching, reading them, and then are just like very jilted by something that has just occurred. So I really like his books. In the Miso Soup was my favorite one, followed by Piercing, followed by Audition. So yeah, I definitely check out Ryo Murakami if you are really into kind of violent thrillers that all explore more insidious human behavior. Next up, I have Coyote Songs by Gabriel Iglesias. This was published in 2018, and this is a short story collection. They are a bunch of non-intersecting short stories, but they are all taking place at the Mexico-US border. And these stories are biting, they are urgent, they are full of rage. This collection was very difficult to read. Gabriel Iglesias kind of mixes individual human experiences at this very violent and contentious place, and then mixes in mythology and lore. You kind of have gods following these people who are at the border, intersecting with the border in one particular way. This book kind of comes at you like a slap in the face, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this perspective. I really want to read more from this author, but this is definitely one of those books that is, kind of gives you a stomach ache reading it, but that is the point. It's meant to kind of shake you awake. So I definitely recommend Coyote Songs. Next up, we have Goth by Atsuichi. This was published in Japan in 2005 and then translated into English in 2013. And this was a really fun book to read. This kind of like Coyote Songs is a series of short stories. These ones are a little bit more connected than Coyote Songs is. This story is following two high school teenagers who are obsessed with serial killers. That's their jam. That's like, I can definitely relate to, you know, the kind of high school goth, high school emo vibe. And they are just kind of romanticizing serial killers, and they feel like they have found one in their community. So this is kind of one of those short story collections where in between each story you come back to these teenagers and then they kind of spy on something, and then the whole next chapter is the short story of what they are spying on, and then it comes back to them, and then you go over here and do this. This this book definitely romanticizes and sensationalizes murder and just heinous activity. I feel like if I read this in high school, I would have been all about it. I would have thought this was the coolest thing. I read this, I think, only last year, and it just seemed a little bit silly at the time. But you know what? It was fun. Like this isn't gonna change your life in any way, shape, or form, and it definitely has weird takes, but it was fun and I enjoyed it, and I would definitely want to read more from Atsuichi in the future. Next up, I have Moon of the Crusted Snow by Wobgeshig Rice. This was published in 2018, and this is kind of a horror, speculative fiction, dystopian kind of mix. This is one of those books that is right on the cusp of an apocalypse, or like right at the beginning of an apocalypse. So Moon of the Crusted Snow is set in a small northern indigenous community. They are just kind of preparing for winter. They're preparing for the year as they normally would. And then apparently in the south, so in like Ontario in Canada, there is some sort of pandemic that is razing Canada. It has not affected this northern community yet at all. And that is until this man in a truck, this white man in a truck, comes up to this community kind of seeking refuge, and he tells them about what is happening down in the south, and is just kind of trying to seek shelter and seek safety within this community. They kind of have issues with letting him in, and the book is kind of a discussion about that. The book is also about, you know, how white people are always a present danger to small indigenous communities. This also has a lot of mythology and lore. The Wendigo lore is talked about in this book. I absolutely loved this. This was a slow creeping terror of a novel. I absolutely loved this voice and definitely want to read more from this author in the future. Next, I have Kanai Minato. I read 2 books by Kanai Minato this year. We have Penance and Confessions. Kanai Minato writes mystery thrillers, and these are just some of the most exciting, tense, twisty, turny thrillers you will ever read. So if you're just looking for some crazy twists, please read Confessions and Penance. I liked Penance a little bit more than Confessions, but they are both excellent books that will not lead you astray. Next, I have My Sister, the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This was published in 2018, and this is an awesome thriller / black comedy. This book is following 2 sisters. One of the sisters, she just has this habit where every time she dates a man, she ends up killing him, and then her sister ends up helping her dispose of the body, clean up the mess, hide the problem. So this book is told from the point of view of the sister who is not doing the murdering, and her kind of complicit actions with her sister's with what her sister is doing. And the kind of point of contention in this book comes up when the sister, the murdery sister, ends up dating a man that the protagonist really likes. Like, she has a huge crush on this man. She just really loves this man. She does not want this man to get murdered. And that's where the kind of book takes off from there. I loved this. I read this book in one day, and again, I just am really excited for the next book that Oyunkin Braithwaite comes out with. Next up, we have Things We Lost in the Fire by Mariana Enrique. This is a collection of short stories published in 2017, and these are all short stories centering contemporary Argentina and the border and political and cultural unrest happening in the society. These stories are beautiful. They are very much in the Gothic horror vein and has a mix of very real, terrifying, visceral horror mixed with kind of the more supernatural mythology stories. There are no bad stories in this collection. They, again, is one of those collections that just kind of, as the more you read, the more ill you feel. Learning about Argentina this was an entirely new experience for me reading this book. I learned so much. It just made me want to go and learn more, and I definitely recommend this collection as well. Next up, we have Talk to Me, an anthology of Arctic horror. I feel like I've talked about this book a lot on my channel, but I do not care because this is an exceptional collection. There are 9 short stories in this collection, and they're all written by Enoch authors, Enoch voices, and this is all horror about the Arctic, living in the Arctic, living in remote communities in the Northwest Territories. Talk to Me is an Inuktitut word meaning in the dark. So the stories are definitely a mix of the isolation, the environment, the long cold winters, and the dangers that are present there physically from the environment, but then also it definitely goes into colonialism and white settler violence as well. I definitely loved this collection and just want to read more from Enoch voices in the future. So Talk to Me, definitely recommend. Next up, we have Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez. This is a self-published book by this author, and if you are just looking for a summary slasher, Camp Slaughter will not lead you astray. Camp Slaughter follows this cabin in the woods. It is called like the Lakewood camp. It used to be a summer camp. Now it's just old and decrepit and nobody knows about it. It's abandoned. Except there are other cabins in the this wooded area that people go to. They rent them. They go to for summer vacations. And when people go to these other cabins, sometimes they go missing. Sometimes they never return. Sometimes there's blood in these cabins, and you're just like, what happened? Where did this person go? I guess it was a suicide. I don't know. But no, you know what? There might be something more sinister and more dangerous lurking in these woods. This is definitely a slashy book. You got lots of gratuitous death scenes. This wasn't my absolute favorite slasher ever of all time. Like it did feel quite tropey, but it was fun. It was exactly what it was. I did think it was pretty cool in this book is that you get some chapters that are from the perspective of the villain, and I thought that was kind of cool, getting to know this this person a little bit. So, Camp Slaughter by Sergio Gomez was a fun little time. Next up, we have Friday Black by Nana Kwame Adjei-Brenyah. This is another collection of short stories. These are very much speculative fiction, horror, thriller, dystopian. This collection, each one explores a different aspect of what Black men and women face in America and the world every day, and then takes a kind of explosive twist on that. A lot of these stories felt very Black Mirror-esque. Again, this is one of those collections that is not enjoyable to read, but his writing is stunning. His voice is angry, but also, you know, demands you to pay attention, which you will do in this. I really loved this, and again, am really just looking out for his next work. Next up, I have The Vegetarian by Han Kang. This was published in Korea in 2007 and then was translated into English in 2015. And I believe the year that it was translated into English, it then won the Man Booker Prize that year. So I would definitely categorize The Vegetarian as horror. I think that it's also kind of travels down the literary fiction, contemporary vein, but horror to me, this is. This is a novel told in 3 parts. It is all centering a woman who decides that she wants to become a vegetarian. And both in storytelling and action, this woman is given absolutely no agency whatsoever. So this whole book is centering this woman, but we never get to hear her voice. We never get to hear what she's feeling. And I think this is a very beautiful and horrifying and haunting book. I read this a few months ago and I can't stop thinking about it. So this one. This is also a very weird book. Like, it definitely has kind of David Lynch vibes, so I could see how this book wouldn't be for everyone, but I absolutely loved it, and it was for me. So the last book that I have to mention that I have read so far is Severance by Ling Ma. I read this book last year. I believe it was a 2019, or it was either 2018, 2019 debut. And this book was incredible. This was the best book that I had read last year. This follows a Chinese American woman who is living in New York City on the cusp of a complete world pandemic. It is essentially kind of a satire of the zombie story, taken in a completely different but a very completely believable and real way. The storytelling and the writing in this was beautiful. It was some of the most beautiful writing I have ever read. It is horrifying, it is haunting, it is very much about this pandemic and how this woman, you know, lives and is able to survive in this pandemic, but it is also a story about the Chinese American immigrant story and the racism involved in that. In this pandemic, it did originate in China and then traveled the world. I've never heard that story before. And then how she has to, and then what she faces and how she has to cope with the racism that comes along with that. This is an amazing book, definitely on the horror, dystopian, also a little bit literary fiction stream. Highly, highly recommend. So those are the books that I have to share with you that I have read. I have a few books on my TBR that I haven't read yet that I'll just kind of quickly share with you. I don't have a lot of information about each of them. I'm not going to try and fully synopsize them, but I'm really looking forward to these, and maybe there might be some that you might want to read too, and maybe we can read them together. So first up, we have The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. This is a retelling of an H.P. Lovecraft story, and we all know that H.P. Lovecraft is a racist piece of shit. And The Ballad of Black Tom is written by a Black author, and it is centering a Black character. Victor LaValle was was a fan of H.P. Lovecraft, but obviously has very conflicted and difficult feelings about his work. So this is kind of taking one of his stories and spinning it in a different direction that is likely less racist. one can only hope. So the next author that is really high on my radar is an Indigenous author. It is Stephen Graham Jones. He is a Blackfeet author. He writes literary horror. He has quite a few books out right now. Two that are really high on my radar. One is Mapping the Interior. This is a short novella about a young Indigenous man who is being haunted by the ghost of his father, and also his ancestry. This seems like kind of a creeping gothic ghost story that I'm really excited about. I'm also very much anticipating The Only Good Indians. This one just came out like a week ago and I'm just waiting for my copy in the mail. Really stoked about that one as well. Next up, I have The Between by Tananarive Due. This is a horror psychological thriller that was published in 1995, and this is about a man who as a child almost drowned, and now he is grown, and I think he's kind of being haunted by some elements of his past. Some sort of critical thing has happened to his life in the present, and he is kind of confronted with his past and his present. This is very much marketed as a psychological story with some spooky and thrilling elements. Next up, we have The Hole by Hyung Pyun. This was published in Korea in 2016 and then translated into English in 2018. This is promised to be kind of like Misery by Stephen King. There is a man who was in a car accident with his wife. The car accident unfortunately killed his wife, and his whole body is like broken. He's in one of those like full body casts, and he ends up being taken care of by his mother-in-law. And so this is one of those creeping horrors where as he is being taken care of by his mother-in-law, I guess it gets more and more sinister what his mother-in-law is doing to him. I believe the hole in this story is she is digging a hole in the backyard that he can see through the window that looks more like a grave. So very much one of those trapped in his body, trapped in his mind, trapped in the cast, psychological horror. Very much looking forward to The Hole. Next up, I have a collection of short stories. This is called Let's Play White by Chesia Burke. This was published in 2011. And then these stories, Gritty and Sublime. The stories of Let's Play White feature real people facing the worlds they're given, bringing out the best and the worst of what it means to be human. If you're ready to slip into someone else's skin for a while, then it's time to come play white. And so these are promised to be raw and brutal and eye-opening short stories. I have not read this author before, but this collection just like really pulled to me when I read the synopsis. So I'm really excited to get to this one soon. Because I love short stories! We know that. We know that I love those. Another book that I am super excited to read is The Crimson Labyrinth by Yusuke Kishi. This was published in 2005, and this is a horror. This is a game show horror. This is about a man who wins his entry onto a game show called The Crimson Labyrinth. So he goes to it, he's super excited about it, and then I guess it just gets really bad. I'm getting like Cube vibes from this. So he's kind of stuck in this labyrinth, gotta find his way out. Murder, mayhem, horror, terror. I don't know yet, but game show horror, you got me. You have me with game show horror. So, hoping to get to this one very soon. And then the last author that I have 3 books by this author, but I haven't read any of them yet. That is Natsuo Karino. I have Out by Natsuo Karino. I have Real World by Natsuo Karino. And I have Grotesque by Natsuo Karino. I have read that their books are very much crime, thriller, horrors. And I feel like there was at one point where I just was so stoked to read this author. I collected all of their books, and then unfortunately they just kind of sat on my shelf. So doing this video and searching for all of these books on my shelf was a really excellent experience for me alone, because it reminded me of these books that I hadn't read yet, so that I could do it. So if you've read any of these, and yeah, let me know what you thought, so that I can, or just like shame me into bumping these up higher on my TBR, because at one point I was very excited about reading these, and then I just haven't yet. But I'm sure that hype is still within me somewhere. There you have it. There was a collection of a few books by Black, Indigenous, and people of color. Some of them that I've read, some of them that I haven't, but let me know if you've read any of these. Let me know if you want to read any of these. Let me know if there's any of the ones that I haven't read yet that you might want to buddy read with me. I love a book club. I love reading horrors and thrillers. So let's get spooked out together. So thanks again for being here, pals. Bye!